So now we will implement search functionality right here. We go to components, then we go to search input. So we need, whenever we type on the input, we will update some form of a value. So right here, let's set the state for the value. We'll have value and set value, and then right here we'll say is equals to use state, and we invoke that. We pass an empty string at our input right here. We had placeholder, we had a class name. We will just add a value, and we'll set the value to be value, so it's a controlled input. Then here we'll say on change will be on change, but we don't have this on change function yet. So on change. So let's create this function. We'll come right here and we'll just say const on change will be equal to, we'll set this to be an arrow function which will receive the e element, and right here we'll be able to do something. So we will add a type right here. I'll say a change event handler like that, then a HTML input element. We'll just set the value to be e.target.value. Okay, very nice. So whenever we type, we will simply update our value there. So I'll say right here const path name will be equal to use path name. I will be needing this, so we invoke that, and then right here we'll be needing the router. So router will be equal to use router from next navigation. Make sure you import it correctly, not like what I'm doing right here. This should be next navigation. Then technically the state should always, like, you know, be at the top there. And then right here we will get the search params. So I'll say const search params will be equal to use search params, and we also invoke that. Now we will use these search params to get our title. Right here we can just say const title from the URL will be equal to search params dot get. We invoke that and we say title, so that we get the title param, which is a search param from our URL. Now for this particular path name, the thing is, if we go to Forest Hotel, you'll notice that we have the search event here. So I only want this search to be at the list and not all the pages. So I can use this path name to perform a check right here, and I'll say if the path name is not equal to home, we will return null. I save, and now this is there. And if we click on more details right here, you'll notice that we no longer have it. So we'll only list our search bar and also the filters at the list of hotels. Okay, now we will implement a functionality where when we type, we go ahead and update our URL with the title search param. So right here I'll add a use effect. So I'll say use effect. Basically use effect should like come before, okay, it should come after our hooks. I consider this to be our hooks. And also this use router, we didn't invoke it, we should invoke it. So we have our use effect here, and here we pass the dependency array. Let the dependency array right here be value and router. Okay, so we go ahead right here and we will say const query will be equal to, right here it will be equal to an object, and we'll pass a title. and here we'll say the title is our value. Then right here we construct a URL, so I'll say const URL will be equal to, so we need to import something that will help us to work with the queries, and that is the query string. So npm I, then query hyphen string, and we hit enter. So I'll say import QS from query string. So we get this QS object which will have some methods, and that's what we'll use to construct our URL here. I'll say QS dot stringify URL, we invoke it, then in here we'll have the URL, and we'll say window dot location dot href comma, that will get our window URL. Then we will add our query, which is now having the title. That is the first parameter. We can add a second parameter right here, some options, and we'll say skip null. If the query is null, then we will not add it to our URL. Then also skip empty string. So also if the string of the value is empty, we will skip it as well, and it will not be added in our URL. Now after this, all we need to do right here is to say router dot push, and right here we say URL. Okay, I save, and okay, we had this title which we haven't used. So how we will use this one is that we will set it as our default state. So let the title be above the state here, but it's complaining. Okay, it's complaining because of the search param. So let the search param be also at the top there. And now right here, we can set the state to be having a default of title. If we don't have the title, then we'll set it to be an empty string. So I save. Okay, now if I come here, you'll notice that our functionality will already work. And if I say forest, let's see, you see, it filtered down to only the forest. And what happened is that our URL was updated to have title as forest, and then our app at the home page, where we have app page here, we were able to get the search params, and we got the title here, and we fetched the hotels again using that search param. The title will be having a value. At our action, we had get hotels, and right here you see title, so we'll check if it contains that keyword. We filter down, we return it, and that will update our UI here. So if I delete, beach returns. Now there is one issue here which is not being visible. This request will be made each time we add a character, each time our value changes. For example, let me show you. Right here, if I say console.log of URL to be URL. So if I say this, you'll see with each character that we type, it will actually filter down. Right here, if I say F, look, we have the URL, it's already having the F. If I say O, rest, you see, we are making the request each time. So this will make the request to our DB each time we type right here. If I say beach hotel, it will make a request each time. So there is a better way to like improve performance of our search, and it's by creating a debounce value in which we only make the request after we stop typing for a few seconds or milliseconds. Okay, so to create that, we will just create a hook. So we can come right here at hooks, we create a new hook, and we can call this use debounce value.ts. Then right here we create the hook, we export a function called use debounce value. Then we will add a type, so we will add this a generic to make it accept any kind of a value. So we'll say value like that, and right here we'll also add a delay, which is actually optional, and we'll say number. We'll say here a t, and we will create our content right here. First of all, we create the state. We'll say const right here debounce value, and set debounce value. We give it a type, so we'll say use state, and we'll give it the type of that generic, and right here we say value. So at the end here we will be able to return the debounce value, and then in here we will create a use effect. So use effect, we will invoke it just like that. Dependency area will be the value and also a delay, and we will create a timer. We will say const timer will be equal to set timeout. We pass an arrow function in this one, like that. Then we will set the debounce value to be our value. So the first parameter of our set timeout is this arrow function. So after that arrow function we include a comma, then we include the time. So we'll say delay, the value that we passed through the function, or 300 milliseconds. We'll go ahead and we clear our timeout. So I'll say return a function, so I'll pass an arrow function, and we will clear timeout, and right here we pass the timer. So this will update our value here after that particular delay, after 300 millisecond, and then we will return this value. So let's use this hook in our search input. I'll do it before our use effect. Right here I'll say const debounce value will be equal to, we use debounce value, we invoke that, and it expects us to pass a value, and also it expects us to pass a time. So you can pass we already have the default time that we included right here, so we can use that. Then right here you can say that these will be a string, so you can make use of this debounce value elsewhere in the application where you want to debounce the value, and you can actually now specify the time. You can pass 1000, that is 1 second, and so on. So now we have this value, and instead of using this value here, we'll say debounce value. So at the title I'll say debounce value, and right here I'll also say debounce value, and we go ahead and save. And now once we save, let's come and test. Okay, we can still log our URL to the console. So right here console.log of the URL, and right here I'll say URL. I save, and now let's see the difference, and you'll see now it's much better with logging stuff right here. So I'll clear. Now if I say forest, you'll notice that it did not for every type that I made, it did not like log that to the console. It waited until I stopped typing, and then that is when it made the request. So if I delete, you see it wait for some few seconds. Okay, not 3 seconds, some few milliseconds. You see it have skipped the R there, so this is like a better performance because it is not making a lot of requests like before. So now the next step is to add a location filter right there. So let me just remove this one and I'll save.